Hi everyone, I have another garden related video for you today. I picked up some plants at one of my favorite nurseries in Austin, and I thought maybe I'd share those plants that I picked up. I use these same plants kind of throughout my whole garden. I really like to repeat things in the garden. I just think it looks cleaner and prettier, and pretty much everything I buy and implant is an evergreen, or pretty much stays the same all year. And I love color choices, so my main goal is structure and color. So if you look in the background behind me there, you'll see some of those agaves that I love to place in the garden. And then you see that purple heart right in front of it, that dark purple. That really cool color contrast between it just really makes everything out, makes both of them pop by doing it that way. So I just wanted to share some of these garden tips and my garden plantings in case you want to replicate them in your own garden. And I thought maybe in the future I might do some actual designs for ideas for in-town gardens and flower beds that we could go over, and you could maybe use those for your plantings. And I thought that might be helpful videos on this channel. So I also am going to just share these plants with you and just explain them to you, and then you can maybe purchase them at your local nursery. And I'm sure they'll look great, and it's so easy to stay healthy by working in the garden. I mentioned I live in Central Texas, so these plantings are perfect for this area. There's really no hard freezes, and it's just beautiful all year round. So the zone I'm in is zone 8, and that's great for everything I have planted here. A few things, the grasses die back, but otherwise it stays the same all year long. And it's so easy for you to probably do this yourself, with the idea of doing the garden designs for yourself. It's great for your health. I'm 5'2". I'm 50 years old, and it really keeps you active. Just a little bit of sweat, a little bit of hard work, and you can enjoy it all year round. So I'm going to turn the camera around and start talking to you about the plants, and I hope you subscribe. Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay guys, here I just picked up a few plants yesterday at my favorite nursery. I picked up this decorative pepper plant to put, actually I'm going to stick that in under the pergola in that pot over there. It's just a little pop of color now that it is fall and everything's kind of dying back. I thought that would just be a really pretty color since they're just covered in peppers right now. And then I also picked up some of the decorative cabbage, the purple cabbage. So these are the, I believe like the 3-inch, 2-inch, 3-inch little pots. I will plant those in my front flower bed that goes across the front of the house. And I am going to show a video of that sometime soon with the front plantings and how I've done that. It's very similar to the back. I like to use very similar plants, kind of the plants I love that I know do well in this area, which would be different varieties of agaves, the same whale's tongue that I'm about to show you agaves, and the Americana, which is a much larger agave. And then also I use rosemary a lot in my gardens, all different kinds. The Huntington, which is like a mid-size rosemary, the Tuscan Blue, which is a larger shrub rosemary. And in this Central Texas area, they don't freeze and they don't die back. So, and I don't have to, it can drop down into the mid 20s and they're still perfectly fine without being covered where I live. Also in the front, I have some Russian sage and some blue sotal, which is more of a desert scape, xeriscape plant. But then I plant more lush things around it, like the dwarf olive bushes, things like that, and some bamboo muley grass. So when we move to the front and I show you that flower bed, you'll get to see some other things and how it's worked a little differently in the front compared to this back garden. But I will plant these little purple cabbages in groups of probably 6 or so, and they'll get bigger as the season goes on. It's funny because these things really do great in the cold nights also here in Central Texas. So these will get bigger and bigger, and the colors will get a little bit deeper as they get bigger, and that'll be really good until spring. So then the next thing that I have within my whole garden, I have so much of this, is the whale's tongue agave. So this one is the traditional whale's tongue agave. This is a 3-gallon container, I believe, and it is priced at, here in Central Texas, this one, I got it at the nursery that I love, was $35. And then here in town, I got this from a second nursery that I love, and this is a Frosty Blue whale's tongue agave. So this one is a much more silvery, and I'll show you, silvery blue agave, and I have one over here on the side that I'm going to show you that is probably about 5 years old, and you'll see kind of what this turns into. And this is a, I believe, about a 3-gallon container, and at this nursery it was $25. So you can see how the $10 price range difference, and they're almost the same size. So they do great here in Central Texas. Their full size will get about 3 to 4 feet in height, and they can vary 4 to 6 feet in width, depending on, you know, I guess the area and the soil, how well they like it. Once they mature, maturity is considered about 10 to 15 years. Once they hit maturity at any point, and this is pretty true with all agaves, they will get this giant stalk will come up out of the center with yellow flowers in it. And my Americanas, which have gotten huge, those agaves, some of mine are probably close to 8 feet in height. And when they put out that tall stalk, it's beautiful. But as soon as that flowering stalk comes out, they will, the plant portion will begin to die. And by the time the stalk is done blooming, the rest of the agave is pretty much dead. So you get to enjoy it 10 to 15 years before you kind of have to replace it. And they are the larger ones are very hard to dig out the root system. So that's just a little bit of extra information. And I'm going to show you, over here I have, you can see this little one over here that's been in the ground several years, for probably the same 5 years, is a little artichoke agave. And it stays very small. So it's almost the same size as these in the pots that are probably, I don't know, 6 months old maybe. And that one has been there for many years. So that one stays small. So if you're looking for smaller agaves, they're out there. And that's an artichoke. Over here is feathergrass, Mexican feathergrass. So if you are just kind of wondering as I'm scoping around what's in that background, and that silver ponyfoot, that's the ground cover, is so beautiful here in Texas. It's just this whitish blue. It's such a beautiful contrast. But let me go ahead and show you some of these agaves. So this particular one, the first one I showed you was the whale's tongue, the traditional whale's tongue. This one has been here about 5 years. It's such a beautiful kind of a rosette looking plant. It looks like this all year long. I do on the really cold nights, because if they do get a really hard, like icy freeze, then those petals will basically kind of turn to mush and die. That's kind of what happens with agaves when they freeze really bad, because they're filled with so much water. But this one is a traditional whale's tongue. It's beautiful. This one is just beautiful specimen. It's a very kind of a bluish green. These are probably my favorite plants. And of course, this is just Purple Heart. Looks better in the spring. We're in December now, mid-December, or almost mid-December. So that's a beautiful example of a large, fairly mature, it's about 5 years old, whale's tongue agave. I'm going to span over here, and then I'm going to show you the example of the Frosty Blue. That was here. So the one I just showed you was this one, at a pretty mature, at about 5 years old. This one is a Frosty Blue, also a whale's tongue, but a different variety. And that one, an example of it, is right over here. So this is a Frosty Blue, and it's bigger than the other one. The sun's kind of setting, so it's kind of hard to show this one's color. It is beautiful. It is very silvery blue, almost like a sagey green. Let me try to pull this grass back for you. It is just a beautiful plant. There's a little bit better view of it. This one is very large. So this is the Frosty Blue whale's tongue. And I'm also going to show you, there's another variety I have here in the garden called a Vansy, which is another yet variety of the whale's tongue. And here's one in a pot. I have some prettier ones over by the pond, but here's one I just stuck in a pot years ago. And you never, my advice to people, because so many people like to overwater if they're not good with plants, stick this in the ground and never give it any water. Stick any agave in the ground or in a pot, that one never gets water poured into it. And it's been there so long, it's probably mostly roots now. But I also have those two over there are also Vansies. So they are so similar in color. They might have a tinge more of a limey green to them. And my personal preference is the traditional whale's tongue or the Frosty Blue. But I think I just love the traditional whale's tongue the best because they have the larger petals for leaves. It's just a beautiful plant. So that is just a quick plant haul to let you know what I'm putting in the garden and kind of what I already have in case you want to replicate that. And in case some of you were wondering, I do usually have friends that want to know where I got these pendant lights that when we built this pergola. Some people are really interested. It turned out so well. Did this a few years ago. Those smaller, flatter ones, the 3, those are Restoration Hardware. And the other 2, which are large, very large balls, this pergola is about 14 feet high. Those are from Serena and Lily. So if you're interested, they all light up at night. It's really pretty. So I just wanted to give you all a little plant haul and little lesson in plants and how I work them into my garden. I hope you really subscribe and enjoy the videos I'm putting up, and I plan to do more videos, at least upload every week. So thanks for tuning in. Bye.